Okay, let's open up our books to page 694. These are the notes for Chapter 9, Lesson 3, and we'll be doing the independent practice for this tomorrow. The first thing we're going to focus on are the relationships and of sides and angles in an isosceles triangles. But before we do that, remember something we've learned from previous lessons that we need to know 100% of the time. I'm going to draw a triangle. All angles, all interior angles of a triangle are going to equal 180 degrees. Now, another important thing we need to know, and some of you may already know, this is a straight line, okay? Straight lines also equal 180 degrees, okay? So, for example, if I were to cut the straight line into two angles, we have one obtuse angle and one acute angle, and let's say this acute angle is 30, we will know that the x here is equal to 150 because 150 plus 30 equals 180. So you need to remember all interior angles of a triangle equal 180 degrees, but also all of all straight lines equal 180 degrees as well, and including the sum of any angles that put together equal a straight line. Okay, so back over here to an isosceles triangle. Isosceles means that two of the angles are congruent, and that's what this sign means. These two lines here are equal to each other. That's what this says. LM and NM are equal lines. Okay, and then we have the angle L and the angle N are also going to be equivalent to each other. Okay, so that's something we need to understand. If this is equal and this is equal, then these two angles are also equivalent as well. We're going to look at a couple of examples of how we can use algebra and what we understand about geometry to solve for unknown amounts, x and y, which are variables. This particular picture shows an isosceles triangle, and we know that because we have those two lines that show equivalent lengths. And we also have the knowledge that if these two lines are equal, then these two angles here are also going to be equal. Okay. What is confusing to some children is that we're going to use this picture to solve two different equations. So we're going to use information to solve two different things. Now, the first thing we're going to try to figure out is how to solve for this x. So we have 7x is equivalent to 35 degrees. Now, this is something that we've been doing since December. If I want to get this x by itself, what is the opposite of multiplication? Exactly, that's going to be division. So we're going to divide this side by 7. And if we divide this side by 7, what do we have to do to the other side? Also divide it by 7. So this is going to cancel out because it becomes 1. And 1x is equivalent to 35 divided by 7. And what is that? Well, that's going to be 5. Okay, so we have just solved for x. But now what we're going to do, and I'll change my pen color because it's fun, is we're going to solve for y. And we can see here, this y is equal to 6 8/10. And I know those are decimals, and please don't panic. So we have y minus 1 7/10 is equal to 6 8/10. Okay, so if I have subtraction, if I have a negative 1 and 7/10 on this side, how do I get rid of it? Because I want the y to be by itself. What's the opposite of subtraction? Well, of course, that's going to be addition. So I'm going to add. This creates a zero pair. But I have to do the same thing to the other side. So we're going to go ahead and add this to the other side. And when, go ahead and solve that for me. Okay, it's over here, so really it's not going to be hard to do. 8 plus 7 is 15. Make sure that you have carried the decimal point down, and we get 8 and 5/10 is what y is equal to. That is what we are going to be doing. We're going to be using our knowledge of geometry to solve algebra problems, solve for unknown numbers. Okay, so we're going to do two different things to this. We're going to solve for x, and we are also going to solve for y. So let's go ahead and solve for x first. I noticed that these dashes here mean that this line and this line are equivalent. So that means these two angles are equivalent. So here is the 12x. That's going to be equal to 72. And so this is multiplication. What's the opposite of multiplication? So I can get this x by itself. Very good. Division. And when I say 12 over 12, that becomes 1. That, essentially, we get rid of that. And we have to do the same thing to the other side. So what I want y'all to do right now, off to the side over here, if you don't know your 12's facts, go ahead and skip count, do whatever you need to do, tic-tac facts, whatever is going to help you out. Solve for 72 divided by 12. All right, so you've already answered this for me, but I'm going to talk to you through my process. If I didn't know this fact, which I do know this fact, but I would always start like with something in the middle, like 5. 5 times 10 is 50, 5 times 2 is 10, that would be 60, and 60 is 12 away from 72, so this must be 6. And so 6 times 12 is 72, and so x is equal to 6. So 6 degrees times 12 is going to be equivalent to 72. All right, so now we're going to solve for y. Okay, now for those of you, stopping for a second, those of you who don't know your math facts, I've added a new extra credit assignment, which is working on Imagine Math math facts, which is different than Imagine Math Star Prep and Review. So you are required to do a certain amount of Imagine Math, period, just Imagine Math. But if you want to spend some time working in the Imagine Math facts section, I will be awarding extra credit for that. And so please look at the lesson objectives vocabulary practice for details on that. Okay, advertisement is done. Now we're going to figure out what y is. These two things are equal. And so we have y plus 2/3. Whoa, that's a 3. Okay, sorry, hopefully that's a 3. That's going to be equal to 4 3/4. Now we can see right away, this is not hard, but it's going to be a little more challenging because the denominators are not the same. The pieces are not the same size. So at some point, we're going to need to find a common denominator. Okay, so if we have the fact that we are adding 2/3, how do we get rid of that? Answer that question for me. Okay, yeah, we have to subtract 2/3. And this is going to create a 0 pair. Okay, so then we'll be left with y by itself. But now we have this problem. We have to take 4 3/4, and we have, that's a 4, sorry. We have to subtract 2/3. All right. So now we have to figure out what is a common denominator, a common multiple of 4 and 3. Okay? All right, so 4, 8, 12, that's a 12. And then we have 3, 6, 9, 12. So 3 times 4, 12. That's a 12. Okay, 4 times 3, 12. Okay, so in order to figure out the equivalent fraction, 3 times 4 is 12, so I'm going to multiply this by 4, and have to multiply the top by 4 also. And what's that going to be? Very good, that's going to be 8. So 4 times 3 is 12, and what's 3 times 3? Very good, that's going to be 9. Now, we kind of lucked out a little bit here because 9/12 is larger than 8/12, so we don't have to borrow. That 4 is going to be left alone. So what is 9 minus 8? Go ahead and answer that for me. 1. So this will be 1/12. And 4 minus nothing is 4. So y is going to be equal to 2. All right, so this is an equivalent, this is an equilateral triangle with 3 equivalent sides. And because all triangles have 180 degrees for their interior angles, if we divide 180 by 3, it is automatically going to be 60 degrees each, and you just have to memorize that, or you can prove it every time if you want. 6 times 3 is 18, subtract it 0, bring down the 0, 0 times 3 is 0. 60 plus 60 plus 60 is 180, and that's what this is describing right here. Okay, so now we're going to use that information to solve some algebra. Okay, they've done this example for you. It says write and solve the equations to determine x and y. And as I've talked about, one picture is going to be 2 different algebra problems. Every single side is equivalent to 25 and 62/100ths. And then they're also telling you that this side is 6 and 1/10 times y. So if we come down here, we have 6 and 1/10 y is equal to 25 and 62/100ths. Divide both sides by 6 and 1/10. That becomes 1. Now we have the y by itself. And we do this division, and holy smackers, don't be afraid of it. I'm going to do that for you right now. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is write it out correctly. Make sure you go ahead and put the decimal up here. But you realize that this has a decimal, and that needs to be changed to a whole number. So we're going to move this over once. We move this over once, and so the decimal now is right here. So I'd like to actually rewrite it so that it's not confusing to me, because, you know, sometimes your mind gets distracted. 256 is what the new dividend is going to be. Okay, so 61, and so in my head I'm thinking, okay, this 25 is less than 30, 5 times 6 is 30, so I'm going to try the 4, and this is going to be 4, this is going to be 24, that's going to work out. Wow, okay, so that's kind of fun, some of the things this pen does. Okay, then I bring down this. And I know that 12 times 6 is 2, so I'm going to go ahead and go with 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 6 is 12. And that works out perfectly, and that's how they got this number, and don't be afraid of decimals, please. Okay. I've changed my pen color, and now we're going to be solving for x. And x, right here, the interior angle is worth 4 times x. And we've just discussed how all the angles are always 60 degrees. So that's where they found this 60 degrees at. 4 times x equals 60. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 60 divided by 4 is 15. So every single one of these problems, when you're doing your quiz this week, when you're doing the work in the book, you have to solve for x and you have to solve for y, 2 different things. All right, so I think we get the gist of this. Now you're going to answer the question about what's the most important thing to remember, or what is at least one important thing to remember. Don't say the lesson and give me some vague, the lesson, what you taught, the examples. No, just tell me something specific, something about, well, clearly there are many things you could say here. So please review both pages, come up with something reasonable so you get full credit. If you do take the easy way out, it's not going to be the easy way out because I'm going to give you 0 points. I'm going to reset the video, and you'd have to do the whole thing all over again in order to earn credit. So just stop for a second, think, and share with me, what is an important thing to remember about this lesson? Go ahead and answer. All right, thank you for your thoughtful answer. And I will see you in class later. Don't forget, you can come to Math Help Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:30, or every single day at 12 o'clock. You can pop in and ask questions. Thank you.